Coast Surf, Kayak, and Wave Ski. I'm here with Mathew Lamont. Mathew, we've been watching your videos on YouTube and Instagram. Man, great stuff. So, where do you live, and what is your home break?
So at the moment, my home break is, well, it's not the closest break, but it's the break I go to the most, is Bude in Cornwall. It's
Okay.
the location for the World Championships next year. No, this
Mm,
year. It's 2022 now. But before that, my home break was Tullen on the west coast of Ireland.
okay.
And that's sort of been my home break really for the last few years, but I've moved down to the south of England recently.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we're here on the East Coast USA, and it's what can I say? It's the waves are okay. We get some okay surf. Don't really know if it's world class, but I know in England, Ireland, man, some of the I was talking to Desi and just watching
Yeah.
the waves you get, it's pretty consistent, right?
Yeah, the waves Desi gets fantastic. I've been lucky enough to get out with him a few times on the west coast and go to some of the spots he goes to all the time. I know whenever I go home to see my family, it's Desi, there's a good swell coming. Are you free to go for a surf?
That's great. I love
And
that.
then the rest of the time, just sort of go to the beaches around that area. It's a great
Oh,
place.
excellent. Yeah. Yeah, we had Desion, we had Alessandro from Owl Paddles, and I just love your videos. You told me you were 23, and you've got some big fans over here. I mean, granted, I'm 50, and some of the guys are older than me. So if you don't mind
Yeah,
having 50, 60-year-old men as big fans. Uh,
won't complain.
but I I come at it from a surfer's point of view, a board surfer. So I've been doing it
Yeah.
since I was about 15. So
Okay.
I
Cool.
don't come from the whitewater traditional paddling,
Yeah.
as I think you do, correct?
I've kind of got a mixed background in that when I started, it was like I did flat water, just sort of messed around in boats for a bit.
Hmm.
And sort of me and my dad, we wanted to learn how to we wanted to learn what we're doing a little bit more.
Hmm.
And we ended up joining a local club and doing whitewater with them for a few years. And while I was doing that, I also got the chance to do sprint paddling as well in
Okay.
the marathon boats.
Yeah.
Did that for around a year, and then sort of fell in love with surfing and been with it ever since.
Oh yeah.
But at that point, I didn't do a huge amount of whitewater. I did a bit, and I would go and surf on the board, but then not a huge amount. But
Hmm.
surfing was the one that really did it for me, and been doing it ever since.
Yeah. I mean, you're for a young guy, you've seemed to excelled greatly. When did you start exactly? How old were you with the
I
surf
think
kayak?
surfing. I think I must have been 14. Yeah, probably 14.
Okay.
But paddling since I was around 11. So
Oh,
getting on for a few years now.
yeah. And for me and a couple of guys over here, it's there's the HP class and the IC class, and forgive
Yeah.
me if I'm just not that knowledgeable, and even how I got a little bit of an idea of how one started and how the other one started, but when you got into it, did you decide to pick a particular class?
Not really. I think at the time, the people that sort of taught me to surf, they had sort of lots of club boats, and I used to just take a playboat out that I had
Mm, yeah.
and sort of tried a few boats and was borrowing boats for a while and ended up speaking to a company and they offered to do well, they were already making surf boats, but they weren't making them that regularly. They mostly did polo boats, but they were making the Revolution, and I managed to get one off them. So that was the first boat that I owned.
Hmm.
But right from when I started, I surfed short boats, long boats, skis, whatever people would lend me or whatever I could try.
I like that. Yeah.
And then when I got my short boat, it was really really good. I loved it, and
Ah,
stopped surfing the wave ski just as much, and did longboat and short boat.
Hmm.
And at the time, my dad didn't have a surf boat yet, so he got a longboat, and I used his longboat and my short boat.
So
And
tell me,
then,
yeah,
yeah,
that's great. I mean, so
I was really lucky.
you got your hand in variety, which is what I love.
Yeah,
That's kind of been my journey, but believe it or not, I mean, here on the East Coast, when we see the pictures of you guys, 20 to 50, I don't know how many surf kayakers in one place at one time, and
yeah,
boats everywhere. I don't have that. New York doesn't have that. There's a little pocket of a few guys
yeah,
that are probably listening now, and in New Jersey, and then when you go further up the coast, I think into New England. But we really, believe it or not, have nothing like you guys have. So just
yeah,
getting our hands on a boat is a big process of knowing somebody, seeing them on,
yeah.
used, or in this case, I have to travel. I would have to drive 16 hours down to Savannah Canoe and Kayak, and
Wow.
that's not happening right now. But
Yeah, no, don't blame you.
yeah, so it's interesting. I always think of a surfer, a shortboard versus a longboard, but since I got my Mega Cyclone as my first surf kayak, and I got into that, and I had my hand in a short boat, but for me, it's a little different than a shortboard and a longboard, surfer compared to surf kayak.
Yeah,
So, what are the real differences that you see when you ride in the two?
yeah. So for me, I try not to think too much about the differences. I've got an idea of the surfing I want to do, and then I try and make that fit the boat I'm in. So in a short boat, sometimes I try and have more flowing surfing, because I think it's quite easy to be aggressive and sharp and do turns like that
Hmm.
in a short boat, whereas it maybe sometimes can be harder to carry speed and flow as well. Whereas
Yeah,
I think long boats, you traditionally think, oh, that's really flowing surfing,
yeah.
and then I want to try and be sort of as aggressive as I can without losing control in the longboat.
Mm.
Or
Without losing control.
ride the edge of it.
Yeah. So I mean, do you pick a particular size, or whether it's HP or IC for conditions if you're just free surfing?
Um, Not really. I think if I'm just free surfing and there's no competitions or anything coming up, then sometimes I'll think about where I'm launching. Because if I'm surfing with Desi, it's quite often a fairly rocky launch, and I don't want to lose a fin or a fin box. So it's
Right.
a lot easier in a longboat. And then sometimes I'm going after work, so I want to have it in the car the night before. So then it's easier with the short boat, because I can put it in the car, finish work, close the laptop, straight in, away to the beach. Whereas a longboat, I have to worry about it being on top of the car overnight.
Right.
But really, I just kind of pick when I'm excited to go surf. And at the moment, that's the short boat, because I got one recently and picked up a new Spirit the other week.
Mm. Yeah, Hobson's making some amazing boats, I must say. Not that I'm experienced in them at all, but just the designs, the
Yeah,
rails, the concave cockpit area, and Chris is, former, or still is, a champion competitor.
yeah,
So,
yeah, he's fantastic.
yeah, I mean, you've ridden older boats, or different kayaks since you were
Yeah,
14. And was it a big learning curve for some of these new designs?
yes and no. I think I was quite lucky in that I've always preferred the more ski-like boats.
Hmm.
And I've tried the Revolution, the Matrix, the Zenith,
Hmm.
and the Hobson boats, and I've always wanted to surf the boat I felt happiest in.
Yeah.
And then I because I surfed an Attack for quite a few years after surfing a Trident, I found it wasn't a huge jump to go from the Attack into the Fusion, and they're all great boats and they all have their own strengths, but I've
Yeah.
always found I want to surf a boat that suits me the best.
Right. Yeah. So, how tall are you? How much do you weigh?
5'10" and 65 kilos.
Okay, I have to do the calculation on that, but it's
Pretty light.
But
Yeah.
when you get a boat, do you raise the seat up at all? Do you any type
Yeah,
of
so that's when I first started surfing, I was even small. I was like really small, and to try and like lean the boat over, I think I put 3 inches of foam under the seat.
yeah.
And as I got heavier and stronger, that felt normal, so I never really lowered it.
Wow. Okay. That's
And
amazing.
yeah, so for years I kind of sat and I would have my hip bone almost out of the cockpit.
Right.
It's a bit lower these days, more because of it's just a bit more comfortable fitting into the cockpit of the Hobson boats because they've got a higher knee position
Mm.
and the width of the cockpit rim, so it suits it a bit better. But yeah, I've always had quite a high seat. At the moment, I think I've got about 2 inches under the Spirit and 3 under the Fusion seat.
Wow. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. You'll never. I mean, do you find that you and the other guys that you know will pretty much never just take a stock kayak with the seat stock? You'll
Yeah,
automatically just raise it up.
pretty much. Yeah. Although
Yeah.
I found when I first, not when I first started, but like when I was younger, 16, 17, I would like always be tweaking it, trying to get it the perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to university and sort of started getting into whitewater kayaking and playboating and going back to borrowing boats.
Mm.
And for a while, there was a playboat I was using, and there were no hip pads in it, and there was no foot block. So I would just ratchet myself in as tightly as I could with the backband and brace my knees against the side.
Yeah.
And after trying to playboat in that for 2 years, I got a lot less fussy about my outfitting.
Gotcha.
Whereas now it's kind of I'll get the stock boat, raise the seat up, and that's pretty much perfect.
Yeah, I'm kind of going through. Well, I got a Banshee, like a middle size, and
Yeah,
I always wonder, even with surfboards, like you never see the pros riding a fish on a competition.
yeah,
So I never in the HP contest that I see you guys on, I never see someone riding an Apex per se or a Banshee in the
yeah,
shortboard division. Is it just that it's too in between? It's more of a general.
yeah. I think at the moment the way the judging criteria is, they've really emphasised rail to rail surfing
Mm-hmm.
in I think from the 2017 Worlds onwards, which suits the shorter boats a little bit better. But saying that, I think when Edu won the Worlds in 2015, he was in one of the longer style boats, and I think so were the majority of the finalists that year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it shifted one way a few years ago, and now it seems to be shifting back.
Yeah, interesting. I messaged Chris about maybe coming on and we picking his brain a little bit. But for somebody like me that doesn't really, I try to read as much as I can, and but the short boats like the Spirit, the Prodigy, the Enigma, I'm 180. Well, I'm actually overweight right now. I need to lose the 9 pounds I gained over the holidays.
Yeah.
It's winter here, but I just don't know what would suit me really. Like
Yeah.
what is the big difference between the Spirit and the Enigma?
Yeah. So I found that I think the hull is generally fairly similar. There's a few changes in that Chris has removed the channel from the back,
Mm-hmm.
along with Gem. But the thing I've noticed the most in it is that the knee position is much lower,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot less volume throughout the deck and the tail. And it feels like the tail is sort of tucked in a bit more as well, and I can
Mm-hmm.
kind of move rail to rail with a lot less effort than the Spirit. Not the Spirit, than the Enigma. But that feels like the progression of the Spirit feels like the progression of the Enigma to me.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, they're really both really good boats, and I wouldn't say that one is better. Just one surfs more how I want it to.
Yeah, it's interesting when we talk to people like you. It's tough to get an exact answer.
Yeah,
like,
very much about feeling rather than like anything like it's this. This is the magic ingredient. It's just this one just feels better.
It's bizarre. I know, right? How can you describe it? And you
Yeah.
can't say one won't go rail to rail as easy as the other one. I don't know. I mean, it's just everyone's shape, size, weight, what you
Yeah,
want on the boat's so different.
yeah, definitely.
And yeah, here's we have a question here.
Yeah.
Lou Hodgson. What benefit do you get from making the seat higher? Are there any disadvantages? Disadvantages. He's only 5'2".
Yeah. So when I raised it, it was because I think, I can't remember how tall I was back when I was 15, but shorter than I am now,
Yeah,
probably close to 5'5", I think,
yeah,
5'4". And found that because I was fairly small, both in height and weight, I struggled to get as much force to lean the boat over as maybe someone who was bigger.
yeah, yeah,
I had a much smaller lever, so by raising it, it lifted my center of gravity and gave me more leverage to lean the boat over,
yeah.
which is good if you're comfortable having a higher center of gravity, but then
Mm,
you're also a bit less stable paddling out,
yeah,
waiting for waves, rolling. Those can all get a little bit more difficult.
yeah,
But what I did was I raised it up sort of an inch at a time. If that felt comfortable, then I'd raise it up. And at one point, I think I raised it up and it felt too high and I felt quite unstable in the boat, so I lowered it back down,
yeah,
just using sort of sheets of camping mat at the time.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm kind of in that predicament, but I can tell Lou that I tried that with a Scarab that I was in, which was way too big for me. But I couldn't get it on its rail with the seat in the lowest position, so I ended up adding a couple inches
Yeah,
just so I could get over on the rail. But being new at this, it was a lot harder to roll, and
yeah,
I was having a tough time.
yeah. It's definitely a trade-off, but if
Um,
you find the balance, it's definitely worth it.
yeah, I mean,
That's different for everybody.
and I'll bring up rolling again. I did notice, and of course, everyone knows the shorter boats are a lot harder to roll. And yes, I need practice. Got to keep practicing. I was in the bay yesterday, in the flat water, with the new boat I have, and even that one, just being a foot shorter, I think it's about a foot and a half shorter than the Cyclone Jester, and
Yeah,
just a lot more rocker. And boy, I was having a tough time. And plus, I haven't been out in 3 months, except last
yeah,
week, I failed miserably. Totally out of shape. Arms are like jelly. And that should be told. If you go unprepared, that's what's
yeah,
going to happen. So yeah, you did mention you're a bit more unstable, obviously, when you raise a seat up,
yeah,
and even someone like you can notice the roll if you raise your seat. You're having a little
yeah.
bit.
Definitely. Like even going from two short boats, they'll feel completely different to roll,
Yeah,
and you reach a point where you can, if you think about them, you'll notice that they're different to roll, but it
yeah,
maybe doesn't affect you too much from like a day-to-day basis, and then you'll think about it and you will be able to pick up on it.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't come from any training at all. And COVID hit, and I just decided to really hit the beach more and get into the kayaking. So I basically had to YouTube everything
Yeah,
on rolling, and that was like, I don't know, am I gonna be able to do this? I got no one here. Just went to the shallows and tried it,
yeah,
and pretty much that was it. But I learned on a whitewater boat a necky rip, and that was pretty easy. And as soon as I got into the more flat bottom surf kayak, I was like, wow, this is a lot harder. And
I think if you can roll a surf kayak, you could probably roll anything as well.
yeah, good point.
Yeah,
My God.
I
Um,
remember when I first tried surfing, I didn't really like it that much because whenever I'd flip, I'd swim and then have to swim back to the beach, empty the boat, and it was cold and I didn't like it. And I came back about maybe a year later, having been doing some whitewater and having learned to roll, and it made such a difference.
yeah. No, it's interesting. We got a question or a comment from Dave Hansen. He says, at your weight, what were your thoughts to choose the Spirit over the Prodigy? He's paddled them both. Um, he's 5'7". He went for a Prodigy. Yeah. Any thoughts on your weight, choosing the Spirit over the Prodigy?
So for me, I was lucky enough to drive up to the Gower Peninsula and see Chris and Jem and demo both boats, so on separate days. So I think I travelled up in April or so last year. Tried the Prodigy, really liked it, and was thinking, okay, yeah, maybe this might be the boat I go for. I think I like it more than others, and it's definitely better at some things, but I don't know if it's perfect. I think I want to try it again because at this point, we'd just come out of lockdown, and I'd lost all the fitness I had,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't tell whether the moments where I felt a little off were the boat or me. I think I believe it was probably me
Yeah.
at the time because I hadn't been in the water for about 4 months, 5 months at
Wow.
this point, and
Yeah.
all I'd really done for the last year was cycling, so I didn't have the core strength I was used to.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I travelled up to Wales again in October this year,
Mm-hmm.
or last year even, and tried the Spirit and was in love instantly.
Oh, nice.
It was the boat I already had, but it did lots of things I wanted it to do even better. And I think that's the sort of the day after I'd asked Chris if I could have one.
I like that.
Yeah. And then I think at some point, because I think the Prodigy and Spirit they're both fantastic, but they both have different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I'm thinking of potentially getting a Prodigy as well to sort of, for some waves, I think the Prodigy will be better. In some ways, I think the Spirit will be better.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I guess like you said before, you just kind of know. When you know, you know. And
Yeah, for sure.
so I'm not sure if you can see this video here,
Yeah.
the YouTube. So, I don't even know what to say. I slowed this down. Those of you who don't know, if you go to YouTube in the little wheel, your playback settings, you can slow it down. So I love to even that move. My friend John was asking, some of the guys like, how do you work your way up to coming down off a hard bottom turn and just hit the lip and just spin your tail around, whether it be short boat or long boat? I mean, did you take baby steps to get up to that point?
Yeah, definitely. When I wanted to learn this, I sort of I was starting to get like my bottom turns and top turns normally,
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to try and learn how to hit the lip and couldn't really do it.
Yeah.
But I ended up I'd spent like a few sessions, I'm not really sure how many, so
Yeah.
working on it, trying to work out what to do, not really getting it or not getting it that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember spending a session with Johnny Bingham, one of the surf kayakers in Northern Ireland at Port Ballantrae, one of the beaches,
Mm-hmm.
and just spent the entire session sort of running along the wave, doing a bottom turn, waiting until I got to the top of the wave, and then just putting my head down, putting in a big stroke, trying to throw the boat.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think at the end of that session, I was able to do it. And like I was doing like a small re-entry. I was starting to get them consistently. And then from there, I started like trying to add it in bigger waves or adding maybe more of a twist to it.
Yeah.
Trying to do more of a barrel roll or trying to get more inverted in it. But it was that session where I just tried to hit the lip every time.
Yeah. That's
and
good
get
point.
that 180-degree pivot to surf out the other direction that really sort of got it for me.
Yeah, I get that. And, it's tough. I play drum set and some guys will just go down and jam. And I do too, like I want to have fun with my limited time. But like you said, sometimes you just got to go out there and instead of riding the wave out all the way to the end, you need to just work on that move.
Yeah.
And you might fail and lose the rest of the wave, but that's what's going to take for a 4-hour session, is just to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah. And I think Desi was telling me that Johnny had done the same session as well, right before one of the worlds, and it made a huge difference to his surfing.
Mm-hmm.
Back like 2004, 2005, I think this must have been.
Yeah.
And yeah, that session where it was like a small, like 1 foot, 2 foot closeout. And it was just perfect for doing that same move over and over and over again until it was right.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm still I don't want to say I'm dreading the roll.
Yeah.
I'm out there, but that's the thing. That's going to be the punishment of trying my off the tops and my floaters, is that I know on every wave, especially in the beginning, I'm going to have to put myself in that critical position under the lip
Yeah.
and hope that I swing it over. Otherwise, I'm going under, and then
Yeah.
in comes the roll. So
Yes. Yeah, it definitely helped to be comfortable with rolling for that one.
yeah,
And starting small. I wouldn't if it was a big 4 foot, 6 foot day, then don't think I'd have been as keen. But this was middle of summer, small waves, perfect, really.
Yeah, I love for a young guy, at least in the surfing world, all the young people just gravitate towards short boards, and you have a good amount of time, as we see on the screen here, in the IC class, which are beautiful. And I would never have comprehended that you would do that kind of surfing without fins, just coming from the surfing world. And I think even Desi said, he's like, sometimes they just get in the way. Which is crazy for me to think that you can do all these things that I'm looking at right now without any fins.
Yeah, I mean, I've never tried surfing a longboat without fins, or something like with fins even.
Right.
But I've just found that having the right core and like sharp rails, then you can hold it just on the edge before you slide out.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
You get to do some extra moves without having the fins.
No, that is a good point, that you will be able to do moves without the fins. And I'm, just probably the obvious is the HP, the short boats have fins just because they're so short. There's no way to really hold that line and hold that speed without spinning out.
No, definitely not. I think I've tried surfing a short boat without fins, and it wasn't the best idea.
That's great.
But trying it with like a twin fin every now and then is quite fun. Just because the lines it draws are so different, despite being the same boat.
Yeah, I'm actually, as a surfer, I like the looseness of a twin fin. The Cyclone had an option to put the twin in, and I used it. I never used it without. In this Banshee, I've just been using 3 little small 3-inch fins. I've only been out once in the surf and just got annihilated. It was too big for me after 3 months of doing nothing.
Yeah.
So we might have waves Friday, and I'm just going to leave the 3 in just to get used to it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I've got enough hold and just take it easy. And that brings me. Someone has a question here. Joaquin says, "Can you give me some hints to make radical top turns, speed and timing? Any hints?"
Yeah. So I think what I always focused on when I wanted to do a big turn was trying to just commit all of my effort to the wave in the very first turn.
Mm-hmm.
Try and do a late takeoff
and
get that big drop so you've got as much speed as possible, and then throw that turn when the wave is as steep as you can, as steep as it is really, and just committing all of the energy to your first turn. And if you mess up and miss out on the rest of the wave, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the point where you're going to get the biggest turn is going to be that first section where the wave has the most power.
Right. That I do agree with, especially here,
sort of in this clip here, actually, like I've just gone for the drop and then committed to the first turn. Although now I'm thinking that maybe I could have pulled that turn in even closer to the pocket.
Yeah.
And still made the second turn.
That's hey, listen, man, watching this in slow mo is a thing of beauty. That's pretty much what I do all day.
Yeah. That's what I did as well when I started. I was just watching videos of, I think at the time it was like a lot of videos of Andy McClelland and Karen and Jake King. I used to watch loads of their videos when I was growing up, trying to like figure out how to do the same moves that they were doing.
Yeah, and Joaquin says, while training top turns, how often do you lose the wave, and how often do you not reach the lip? I'm always worried about losing the wave, just because I'm so new at it,
Yeah, I think I don't really have an exact figure, but I think when I worked on trying to do bigger turns more than trying to do really high turns first.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up initiating turns too soon and too low on the wave.
Right, I get that.
But they'd be quite big, and then because they were quite big turns, maybe I'd lose a bit of speed and gain a lot of height on the wave when I came out of them. And then when I realized I was doing that, I started trying to work on trying to turn higher on the lip
Mm-hmm.
and focusing on waiting until I want to turn, then wait a little bit longer, but trying to not put so much energy in that the whole boat breaks free of the wave and stalls out.
Yeah, I get that, and I liked your comment earlier about trying your big move, especially training, right at the drop, because especially here, you know, it's the first break as soon as it pitches, especially for us on the East Coast. That's generally all the power, you know, as big as the waves usually are going to be here. It's not like it's a pipeline cylinder that's just going to keep streaming along. You know, so if you're going to commit, do it.
Yeah, definitely. Like there'll always be another wave.
And I was talking to Ian McLeod on one of these interviews, and we were talking about training. And I just started doing what one some of his advice was. Obviously, hit the weights and hit the gym and all that, and but actually get out there and start doing sprints. You know, since we're not doing distance, you and I, it's pretty much paddling through the white water, or it's paddling into the wave. And I did some of that yesterday, and I'm sore as hell right now, so it feels good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've done a few interval sessions in my past, but I've done tons of different types of training. I've done gym training. I've done sort of 2 months where I was still at university, so I could take all of the summer off and just surf as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, it's not really anything that's specific training. It's just surf when I can, train my core when I can, and the rest of the time just do as many other things to keep active as possible.
Yeah, I started doing yoga with my wife, and it's like power yoga, or it adds in some you know, some core stuff, some mountain climbers in there once in a while. You know, what do they call it? Diamond push-ups with your hands, where it's more tricep focused.
Yeah.
And I already know what it's like to go out there and prepare and do nothing, because I just did it.
Yeah.
And I failed miserably. So you do rock climbing, you do other stuff. Are there any, you know, do you hit certain areas to keep you in kayak shape?
Yeah, when I would do gym training, I would sort of focus mostly on the upper body.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would do like 2 pull sessions, 2 push sessions, and a leg session every week.
Okay.
So that'd be lots of like push and pull exercises like bench press, deadlift, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then I'd also be supplementing it with squats as well, just because I didn't want to neglect anything really. But I had sort of 5 days to train, and figured I'd get the most effect if I was training things to push and pull, and then finishing off with core, and rounding out then the week with some legs. But at the moment, it's just trying to like keep on maintaining that pulling strength through climbing, and then building a good strong core as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the rest is just whatever I enjoy, keep things fresh.
Yeah, I was surprised in that my legs were so sore from my training session yesterday. And man, I was like, my legs and my hip, you know, I didn't take the time when I first got the kayak to really dial it in and set it up. I was just so excited. I'm like, all right, I got a day. I got to get out there.
Yeah.
And it really hurt me. I mean, not physically, but I really wasn't able to roll it and to kind of get my hips and turn it. And I was scared shitless too about wiping out and having to roll. And but yesterday, before I went out even training, I made sure my legs were in there tight, my hips are in there pretty tight.
Yeah.
And even doing those sprints, my legs were sore, probably for the first time ever since I kind of started this sport.
Yeah, I remember
the same, like that you need to get that to know that you're using everything, your legs, your hips, your core. You're not just using your shoulders and just paddling like a recreational kayaker, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, whenever I paddled sprint boats and race boats, that was a big focus as well. Was on like focusing on driving with your legs and rotating through the core rather than sort of using your arms much. And it's
Hmm.
always something I try to like keep in mind and sort of work on when I'm focusing on paddling technique rather than anything else.
Right. Yeah. I definitely benefited from yesterday, and just kind of experiencing probably what you pros experience, which is get really tighter in the boat and push and pull and use the whole legs and the hip. And I was in flat water, so I'm interested to see how it works out when I get in the ocean, possibly Friday, which would be great.
Yeah.
And so as far as paddles go, what's your preference these days? Or do you have any advice for someone like me? I mean, I know talking with Desi, it's like, well, if you go too small or too short, you better have your roll down. When that's
Yeah.
forget about that part.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you want sort of the longest paddle that you feel. It was the longest, but you want to find a good compromise between the paddle being easy for paddling out, easy for rolling. Because the longer the paddle, the quicker you're going to be paddling out and able to
Mhm.
dodge sets. But for me, I like quite a short paddle because when the wave is sort of throwing, you want to be able to swing the paddle around underneath the wave. I think my paddle's only 2 inches shorter than me.
Mhm.
So when it's steep and throwing, then it's easy to get around. Whereas if I was going for something longer, it'd be a lot easier for paddling out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just wondering. I've got one. I think it's an old Mega. The Cyclone I bought is 20 years old. I found out it's in incredible shape,
Wow.
and a paddle came with it, and it looks to be it might be around 194 possibly centimeter.
Yeah.
I don't know the blade diameter or the
Yeah.
measurements, but I put it up against a 755, which is pretty big, and
Yeah.
a whitewater paddle, and it's a little smaller than that. So maybe I'll say 725, 730, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm a little apprehensive to go smaller as far as the blade size goes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't think there's any real need to sort of go short unless you're noticing it being too long.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
had a set of 191 paddles that I used for years and years
Hmm.
when I was much shorter than I am now, and
Hmm.
they were perfect at the time. And then I was starting to find that they were catching a bit on the moves that I wanted to do, and that was the point where I sort of, oh, now I think I want to try and go shorter.
Okay.
And then I tried someone else and thought, yeah, this works, but this is too short for me, and then
Mm.
I'm going somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But up until the point I realized that up until when I felt that they were too long, they seemed perfect to me.
Interesting. So what's your size now that you're surfing mostly, your paddle size? Do you know the
180.
holy mackerel?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty short. I don't know
yeah,
if anybody out there listening right now is using it that short.
yeah,
Yeah, but you said something interesting. If the paddle is catching on some of the moves that you're trying to do, then
yeah.
it makes sense.
That's when you notice it.
Right, which is great because you're going to know
Yeah,
right away. And so
yeah,
for me, I think that what I have a 194. I think I have a 196. I'm just going to do what you did and just keep doing it and trying it. And as I
yeah,
work my way up to some of these better moves, just see if the paddle's getting in the way, and also judge
yeah,
my rolling ability as well.
yeah. That's it. I think unless you notice it's an issue, it's probably not an issue.
Right.
And having a longer paddle makes a lot of other things easier.
Yeah, yeah. So there's so many other brands of kayaks in Europe. I see all the photos and the videos. It's great. For me to see
Yeah,
one up close is just, it's never going to happen unless someone actually owns one and it's used. So it's so in your journey, I mean, we were talking about the boats that you like the Spirit or you're a prodigy, and you what as far as the IC classes have gone, the change in technology in your time of surfing. I mean, you're surfing a Fusion now, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So in the Fusion now, and before that, I had an Attack from Random, and this one was built by Mega in the UK that I was using. And then before that, I think the Bullet was out from Mega, but I hadn't got on with it hugely well and was surfing a Trident instead.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. I've heard the name, but
yeah, I think the Trident. I think it came after the Cyclone.
Okay.
And then the Bullet came after the Trident.
Yeah, I think the Trident looked kind of very pointy. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some videos. I'm like, I can't believe they can keep the nose up on that thing. But
yeah, that's what Desi used to. Well, that's if you ever look at Desi's YouTube videos, like a lot of his older stuff.
Yeah,
that's what he was paddling.
Yeah, that's interesting. And Johan says your hand also looks close together on the paddle.
Yeah.
Any reason? Yeah, is that your style? Is that...
I think that's partially because the paddles are quite short, and partially just to be able to swing the paddle around easier when I'm trying to do a flip.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seen you do some rock climbing and stuff, so I know you're in tip-top shape. And
try to be.
It's great. I'm back in training, so to speak, and I mean, I'm going to go out Friday, I think, and I still am dreading the roll, of course, especially in this new boat. So, yeah, as Desi or anyone would say, you just got to put that out of your mind and just go out there. I mean, are there times when you won't go out? Is there a
yes and no. I won't go out if it's. I won't go out if it sort of looks like it's going to be really bad conditions or really stormy and windy.
Yeah.
But I've definitely surfed my fair share of stormy, windy conditions and gone out in reasonably chunky waves.
Yeah, like sort of what's on screen right now. It's very shifty. I mean, there's white water all over the place.
Yeah, it depends on the break, really.
Yeah.
If it's going to be big, but there's going to be a way to paddle out, then it's not really such an issue.
Yeah.
But if you're going to a low tide beach where everything is just sort of detonating in front of you, and you're going to paddle and stay still for 30 minutes, then I'm a bit less inclined to get out. Although saying that, I did do that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I hear that. And, we talk about IC and HP, and you do both. I mean, do you take an IC out on those bigger, chunky days where you've got to paddle really far out and mountains are moving all over the place?
Yeah, not really. I think I just take whichever sort of pick up. And for a while at university, I had one boat in England, one boat in Northern Ireland. So I'd surf the long boat when I went home, and I'd surf the short boat the rest of the time.
Yeah.
But generally, I try and mix it up fairly often.
And do you do that because the love for it, or because you also want to compete as well? You've got to be good enough.
A bit of both, really.
Yeah.
I think if I hated surfing a longboat, I probably wouldn't compete in it.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually really enjoy surfing both boats, and I think they're both different. They've both got great things to offer. And surfing both will improve your surfing in both boats, really.
It's funny. I remember one day when I was young, I took a longboard out, and then I immediately went on a surfboard, a short boat, and it was so I was so funny. As soon as I did a bottom or top turn on the short boat after being on the longboard, it was just like turning on a top. It was amazing. So I can see what you just said is true. Training. I mean, if you train on the IC and then you go out on an HP, and vice versa.
Plus, I mean, they're both good. They're both fun to surf. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I like what Desi said once about with the IC without having any fins. Sometimes he's able to just slip down the wave. and that's exactly where the fins would get in the way when you're in a crucial position or something. You need to set up where you're getting drawn too high up on the pocket in the wave. So you're able to just kind of slip down with that IC, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really try and slide too often.
Yeah, you don't look like you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to sort of stay high and then carve to generate speed.
Yeah.
But I do find that sometimes you can get along a flatter section better in the long boats, whereas you can maybe make it along a steeper section better in the short boats, just because they've got the hold from the rails and the fins.
Yeah, yeah. I did notice that the break I go to around here, the closest one for me is more of a barreling left, and surfers like it. Mostly short boards near the jetty because it's steeper. I usually paddle down further just because it's not as steep. But I knew right away, the same wave around the same conditions. I take the cyclone out. That's all I had. I took a scarab out. That's all I have. And I knew right away as soon as I came down a steeper section, I'm like, whoa, the nose didn't catch. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I might like a shorter boat along this journey that I'm going through for certain circumstances.
Yeah. And for me, because of competing, I've got both boats.
Yeah.
But I do find that they both have their own strengths and weaknesses.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's give and take. My buddy John out here in Long Island's like, I want to be the fastest thing on the water. So he loves the Fusion, and he just ordered another one. So with I think some side bite fins, he wants to put a couple small fins and try that as well. And I actually would love to try. I would love to try his older Fusion without fins just to see.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of a soul surfer at heart. I mean, I like to carve and cruise and get the most out of the time I have in the water, and I'm not going to be competing at all. So, but I just want to get the most out of the wave. And if it's a steep wave, maybe it's a shorter boat. If it's a more rolling swell, where I'm not worrying about catching my nose and purling all the time, maybe I'd be happy in an IC, which would be fine with me.
Yeah.
And someone was my buddy Ross is asking, well, what are your water temperatures? We'll have to calculate the.
I don't know. I think I know I've surfed down to about 5 degrees. That's the lowest I know. I've looked it up. To be. Wow. But I think it probably goes between sort of 5 and sort of high teens.
Okay.
In the summer. But then there's less good waves when it's warm.
What's the conversion on that, Ross? You listening? Yeah, right now it's 39 here, and that's for us 32 is freezing.
Yeah.
So I'm 7 degrees above freezing right now. So I was out yesterday. It was pretty damn cold rolling. So that just adds to the physicality of being knocked over with the whitewater. That's a few above freezing, and the outside temps can be that as well. Do you experience that where you're at?
Yeah, I think probably more whitewater I've done being cold.
Yeah.
When it's been sort of raining, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that's been a lot more sort of January, rainy, cold. Can't feel your hands wearing a dry suit. Whereas surfing, I think, has always been a little bit warmer just because the sea doesn't cool down as quickly as the rivers.
Yeah, that's true. And I wanted to ask you about traveling too before we go. You've been one about just shipping the gear and how all that went, and what was it like your first time traveling overseas, like to Peru and things like that?
So I think first time I traveled somewhere was to a competition in Mundaka in the Basque Country. And I think I just took a short boat at that time. And that was very stressful just because it was my first time traveling with the boat. But it was all fine and no need to worry, really.
Right.
And then I've traveled a few times to Portugal as well.
Yeah.
again, that was sort of okay. Like at this point, I'd done flying across Europe with a boat, wasn't too bad.
Okay.
And then first time I had to go over to the first time I went to the US to Paddle Fest competition over in Santa Cruz. I think one of my boats got broken.
Oh
Which was
man.
a bummer.
Shit.
Yeah,
That's
not what you want.
Yeah, that's
But,
my fear. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
definitely a fear.
oh my God, that's horrible.
But then the majority of the times it has been fine,
Yeah.
and there hasn't been really an issue.
And
And then Peru again was like, oh, we're going to have to get connecting flights. Hope the boats both make it, and it was fine. Although on the way home from Peru, we lost a suitcase, but it's fine because it was a suitcase rather than the boat.
oh God. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, Paul, the wave skier here, he said 5 degrees Celsius is 41 degrees Fahrenheit. So
Yeah,
my water here is 5 degrees for you. So
yeah,
pretty damn cold.
yeah. I think that's the coldest it's been. And
Yeah.
now that I'm in the south of England, I don't think I'll see that sort of temperature for a while.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, listen. Do anything you're sponsored by VE Paddles? Is that correct?
Yeah, so by VE Paddles, Peak UK, and Hobson Kayaks at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
And
great.
sort of have been for a few years.
Mm-hmm. And when you're competing, is there anything you're going to be doing differently? Like, when's your next contest coming up? Not that you need to,
yeah.
give all the details of what you're going to do. Yeah.
So next contests for me are sort of April and May. I don't know which. I think it's the Black Rock competition in mid-April is the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is also the Cornish Open is going to be happening as well at the start of May, followed by there's another competition as well in North Devon that I'm going to go to, and then sort of the three that I'm focusing on in the short term. But then the World's coming in September, October this year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. And are you going to do anything as far as training the muscles or just get out there and just?
Yeah. So I think at the moment I've been kind of waiting for the evenings to get light enough to go after work.
Yeah.
And try and get more hours in the sea that way.
Right.
And that's sort of my plan for sort of from now onwards is try and get as many hours in the boat on the water as possible. And then the rest of the time keep strong and keep fit for the next swell, that kind of thing.
Right. That's
and at the moment that's I think I'm probably doing something sort of 6 days of the week.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to compete, and as Ian said, it's a war zone out there in a sense, but you want to win. That's why you're there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. My buddy Charlie, he's a whitewater kayaker. He just sent me a message. He says he's a great whitewater kayaker. So it's interesting. We come from different worlds, and he found me on social media, and he's been training, and he's schooled, and he's in the pools indoors in the winter.
Yeah.
He's short boats, little piranhas and things, a play boat. But we got together last summer, and he was just riding the waves straight in, no surf knowledge or anything like that. And we got a chance to hang out a little bit, and I could explain to him how to angle in on the drop and lean and really lean and use the rail. But he's wondering if there's 2 or 3 whitewater playboat tricks that you might want to try in the Prodigy for someone like him. Like I see these whitewater guys. Can you do those kind of standing up on your tail? Can you
so
nose in and flip it over?
Yeah, I've done a loop or two in surf boats before.
Yeah,
I think Edu Echeverria is really good at pulling them out of the bag.
Oh, aha.
And there's a really good video I've seen of one of the bass guys, Hode, who's got a really good video of him doing an air screw at the bottom of the wave in a surf boat. That I've seen on Instagram. I can try and find it and send it across to you later.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. That was going to bring me up to my next question is, if you've ever followed surfing, like the aerials have gotten insane over the past decade. and even you guys are in wave ski, like is it Pablo,
Yeah.
doing these alley oops and things. So, I mean, what could be the next? Is it going to be, taking one of the hands off of the paddle and grabbing a rail on your
Yeah.
kayak in the air?
I mean, me and one of the Irish guys, Kieran, were debating how we could try and do that and make it look good at a competition in France years ago. I don't know whether either of them actually got around to doing it properly yet, but we've definitely talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell any secrets on here, because it's. But that's the thing too, as sports fans, every year or two, every decade, everything gets pushed to another level. And I mean, like Charlie was just asking about the whitewater tricks. I mean, I always just assume that's probably what's going to happen, is that someone's going to be able to be on the face of a wave and dig the nose in, flip, and still kind of be on the top, or get back into the face somehow.
Yeah.
Or backflip.
Yeah, there's I think there's videos of people like Edu doing it, and I think Jim Groteman's pretty good at putting out helixes as well.
Okay.
On the face of the wave.
Exactly. What's a helix?
You kind of, I can't do them, but I think the idea is that you go down the wave and you flip upside down, spin around upside down, and then land facing forwards.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Something for me to work my way up to.
Yeah. Something I need to work on as well, actually.
Yeah. And I mean, there are moves that I see you doing in the IC, all you guys doing in the IC, which is kind of you flipping the tail around almost like a flip, and you end up backwards on the wave.
Yeah.
And doing something like that, I mean, you can do something similar on the HP boat. Is it one more difficult for that type of move?
I think I think the longboat might be easier.
It looks like it can be in some circumstances.
You can kind of, once you're high, you can kind of just throw and drop the nose, and the boat will kind of do the rest.
It looks like it on all those videos, yeah.
Whereas I think the short boat, sometimes you need a little bit more of a ramp to sort of launch the boat off and initiate the rotation.
Yeah.
But the rotation is easier to control once you've started it. Whereas the longboat, it's easier to initiate, but maybe a little bit harder to do anything else after that point.
Gotcha. So that's the big finale right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look on the icy boats that you're actually using the nose sometimes in the water.
Yeah, kind of. Almost you kind of stick it in, it acts as a brake, and you can pivot around it.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. That's kind of got me, thinking about my friend John, who just loves the fusion he's in, and he was asking, I think Desi about that last time, and probably you, and he'll watch this on the replay as well, and some of your videos on how to really dissect that move. And so the videos are great for that. And you mentioned Echevarria, which is the younger one?
O'Day, I think it is. Yeah, well, I know O'Day is the younger one.
O'Day and Edu?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So I've been competing against O'Day ever since I sort of started going abroad and going to the comps as a junior.
Uh-huh.
I think he's a year ahead of me, but the way the categories have always worked out at World Championships, we've always been juniors together and then seniors together.
Right. No, that's great. I mean, I think Chris mentioned his name as well as Desi, as someone to and but what we're here on the East Coast, if it wasn't for social media and all the stuff that you put up there, that's kind of how we learn and find you guys. And that's the reality. So as good as everyone is out there, if you're not putting up the videos and the photos, and my wife is never going to videotape me for 2 hours. It's just not happening. So for me, it's just the GoPro and such. But it's great that you're putting in the effort, and
I was very lucky that my parents were willing to do that.
Oh,
for me
really?
a lot. Yeah. So a lot of the photos and videos I've had have been sort of taken by my parents,
Oh,
and
man.
then like my most recent photographs, I think, were taken by Mark Woolwood
Okay.
because he decided it was kind of cold, and
Uh,
I was in the same area that he lives in, so I think he was out for a walk and thought, "Oh, I'll bring the camera with me because I know you're in the water."
yeah. Oh, good for him. We thank him if he's
Yeah.
out there
Cheers,
listening.
Mark. Yeah,
Man, thank you. Yeah,
it
that,
just suits
listen.
him because he can promote the site for the world.
Yeah, and if there's anything you need to promote to us, tell us right now. And I know your Instagram's up here on your YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so there's my Instagram, my YouTube, and then I've already mentioned my sponsors.
yeah,
If you can, like they all make fantastic gear, and I wouldn't be supported by them if I didn't want to use their gear.
yeah,
So if you want to check out a pair of paddles, look for VE, gear, look for Peak, and kayaks, look for Hobson.
there you go. Yeah, I mean, it's good stuff. Yeah, listen, I want to appreciate. I mean, I could talk forever. I don't want to keep you too long. And if
No,
there's
don't worry.
any
Great to
further
be here.
questions, post them up here. But I put this video up. It's not you, but it's one of the videos that I end up watching, and
Yeah,
it just the beauty of the slow mo
yeah,
kind of puts it all into perspective on at least a lot of the mistakes I used to make and still make in the surf kayak, which is staying a little too high up on the face. And
yeah,
just because one, I love to be in the pocket. I love the feeling of being in the wave, but then again,
yeah,
it's the consequence of not being able to get all the speed and
yeah,
come down the wave to get the drive out of a bottom turn.
yeah,
And this guy on the screen here, he doesn't actually make this one. He comes close, but
yeah,
you're one of the guys mentioned earlier about doing the top turn and being
yeah,
too early or too late. And this is one of the consequences on the screen. And
yeah. And it's so close to being absolutely perfect.
it was. I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't. Yeah, it looked like he was going to make that for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think you said a lot of great things, and I always take a lot out of these chats for the
yeah,
beginner, and I think the intermediate too. And
yeah.
I have a question. We're also catered to some of the wave ski crowd. You didn't fall into the wave ski thing. Any
Yeah, I
reason?
think at the time when I was sort of doing all three and doing paddling a ski, paddling a surfboat, the skis that I had access to were a little bit older,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
at the time I bought like a pretty cutting edge kayak,
Right.
so there wasn't maybe a huge difference in how they paddled on the wave,
Yeah.
but the ski that I was on it stopped of about 6 inches beyond the foot loops.
Mm.
I don't know how old it was, but it might have been like 90s, 80s, and it was pretty
Mhm.
hard to paddle out.
Yeah.
And on the wave at the time, for me, there wasn't a huge difference between my kayak and the ski, so I kind of stopped paddling it to the same extent.
Yeah.
But I do have a ski still that gets used a little bit less frequently, but I need to get out on it more.
Yeah, I think it's not one bashing another, right? It's kind of
No,
just what you really are comfortable with. I personally um, really just liked the comfort of the kayak,
yeah,
just the back support, the
yeah,
knees tucked in there, with the
sure.
thigh grips and everything. I
Plus,
just
it's warmer.
I thought it worked for me a lot better, and I come from the surfing world, so I, I thought it was a little too close for surfing for me, if
Yeah,
that makes
yeah, that
sense.
makes sense, I think. Yeah,
Because
because I've actually heard that from well, my brother who surfs wave skis, in that he feels that short boats are too close to wave skis,
yeah,
but he's more interested in surfing a wave ski or a longboat just because they're a
yeah,
bit more different.
absolutely, and that's kind of, but that's also if you do want to, sit down and feel more like you're surfing, then maybe a wave
Yeah,
ski is something that you want. But I already do
yeah,
that. So I wanted something totally
different. Yeah.
little different. To me, it feels like I'm sitting in a little race car.
Yeah.
It's true. And
Yeah.
and my buddy, and plus my buddy John's like, he said he couldn't roll the ski that he had. This was years ago when he was learning, and he was on that journey that I'm on, which is having to really learn how to roll and be comfortable in there.
Yeah.
And, I know the kayaks are probably a little easier.
Yeah.
Don't have to take a foot out of the strap and
No.
use it for extra leverage. I'm like, I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
I want to be contained. I want a kayak. I want comfort. I want to be able to sit there for a few hours.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like the thing to make the most sense.
Yeah. I mean, I actually find that sometimes the ski is easier to roll just because of the leg.
Yeah.
You can use it for sort of a bit of a hand.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I think you end up rolling it twice as often.
Right.
So you still get tired after surfing it.
Yeah, and I could be mistaken, but I think most of the wave skis that I see out there, when you're waiting on a wave, your legs are kicked off to the side.
Yeah.
And for me, I do that on a surfboard already.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, for me, if the water was warmer, if I was in different types of waves, I would probably be a wave ski guy, because my buddy's like, "Hey, Rich, I just grabbed my shorts and I go out there. You don't need the skirt and the PFD and all this other stuff." And I'm like, "Listen, man, it's it's all a matter of taste. It's all like
it's all about whichever's most comfortable for you and whichever one makes you happiest."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, you're great, man. Listen, we love your videos and
Thank you.
and the pictures, and we'll probably do one more interview with Paul DePole. I'm sure I didn't even say that right, but he's the Start Wave Ski guy, and
I've seen it on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, and he just started this all up on his own, and we're going to hear his story maybe 2 or 3 weeks or so.
Sounds good.
And then it's getting warm enough here, so we're probably all going to be out surfing. So
sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, we'll probably do a little less of these. But listen, you had a lot of great things to say, and I want to thank you for taking the time.
Anytime.
Really good stuff.
Really enjoyed it.
And listen, if you ever need anything, not that I don't know what we could do for you over here, but if you need to promote things and videos of yourself, I'm always looking for guys on the other side of the pond for their videos, teaching tips, tutorials, where you're going to be, contests.
Sounds good.
I try to keep us all educated here on the East Coast USA. So everyone, give Mathew a good thank you. And don't go away, Mathew. I'll end the live broadcast, and you and I will just say a quick goodbye. All right, everybody. You guys have a good night.
See ya.